The movie begins with a man falling into a room, and he looks rushed. He's trying to solve a puzzle inside the room, and he starts to panic as the walls slowly close in on him. To save himself, he has to struggle to solve the puzzle, but he ultimately fails, and the walls crush him. Then the story jumps back 3 days before the incident. Zoe is a college student studying quantum physics in Chicago. After class, her professor asks her a question, and then advises her to be more daring. In a slightly mysterious way, he suggests that she should try doing something that scares her. We then move to the second character, Jason, a stockbroker who has been busy on calls with clients from the very beginning. The third character is Ben, who offers himself for an open cashier position when he sees his manager, but the manager turns him down, saying Ben doesn't have customer service experience. We go back to Jason, who receives a mysterious box. Meanwhile, Zoe, who isn't comfortable at parties, prefers to stay in her room talking about quantum physics. After her friend leaves, Zoe starts experiencing strange hallucinations. Suddenly, as her friend is about to head home, they find a package at the door sent from the professor to Zoe, and what's inside is similar to what Jason received. At the same time, Ben has just returned from work and receives a similar box from his manager. All three of them become curious, each in their own way. Zoe examines the box carefully, Ben uses a more aggressive approach, and Jason watches tutorials about it. Eventually, they all manage to open their boxes and find a note inside saying that if they can escape from the rooms they'll be locked in, they'll win $1,000. Ben, who is tired of being broke, heads the next day to a building called Minus. Then a beautiful woman named Amanda arrives and goes to the reception to participate. There's no entry fee, but an ID is required, and phones are not allowed. As she's about to enter, the employee tells her in a strange tone, "Thank you for your service." Amanda doesn't want to be alone, so a young man named Danny holds the door open as he walks in, carrying 2 phones with him. They all reach the room and meet Mike and Jason there as well. When Amanda knocks on the glass, she gets a cold response from the guard. Suddenly, they gather like a family and introduce themselves. Mike mentions that he once had a dog named Amanda with different colored eyes, but it died. Then Ben arrives. Amanda accidentally reads a headline saying that 5 people were burned alive. Danny talks about his extensive experience with these kinds of challenges, even discussing it with Ben, who seems bored and wants to smoke. Ben tries to leave, but the doorknob breaks off in his hand. When he looks inside where the knob was, he finds a button that looks like a stove dial. Danny immediately realizes that the game has started. They all begin searching for anything that might help them solve the puzzle. While searching, Amanda notices that all the magazine subscriptions are under the name Dr. Renu. Then Mike finds a screwdriver inside a book titled Fahrenheit 451. Zoe sees the book and decides to mess with the stove dial, and as soon as she does, the room suddenly starts heating up. Amanda gets scared and asks Danny for advice since he's played similar games before. Danny explains that it's normal in these games to ask for hints. When Amanda requests a hint, the game's system responds, telling her to stay where she is and that someone will come to her soon. Zoe starts to feel like something is off and notices the strange way the voice communicates. Meanwhile, Jason is surprised to find a snow globe with a ship inside, and by coincidence, he notices a keyhole in the window of the control room. Danny thinks the next clue must be there, so they all start searching for a key. Instead of searching for long, Ben tries to break the window using a fire extinguisher, but it turns out to be made of plastic, so he angrily throws it away. Suddenly, the columns in the room started heating up too, so Zoe decided to look around and investigate. She found a key, and when she turned it, they were shocked to realize that the voice they had been hearing was just coming from a statue. Then the phone rang, and the message told all participants to follow the rules of the game. Once the call ended, the windows shut as well, and the room got even hotter, spreading panic among everyone. Zoe took initiative and brought Amanda a glass of water. While handing it to her, she noticed burned scars on Amanda's back. The others started getting nervous, but Zoe, staying calm, found a clue. It turned out that the broken pieces on the table were the key to solving the puzzle. Everyone worked together, and the ventilation opened. Jason was the first to find an exit, but he needed a screwdriver. Mike caught up with him, and soon they both reached the next room, followed by Amanda. Suddenly, Zoe had an idea to place a glass of water on each coaster, but Amanda's trauma came back again, and Zoe had no choice but to help her. The temperature in the room rose so much that the mannequin burned. Together they filled the cups with water, but unfortunately, they ran out before the last one because Amanda had already drunk it. The argument wasn't over when flames suddenly burst from above. Luckily, Ben still had a lighter in his pocket, and the two of them managed to escape through the vent just before the fire reached them. Up until that point, Danny still believed everything happening was just part of the game, but the others were terrified and wanted to call the police, except there was no signal. In the second room, they had to open 2 locks. John tried a bag, found the first key, and succeeded. The second lock required a password, so everyone started searching for clues. Mike found a clue that said, "You will be in history." Jason tried entering the names of 7-letter presidents, but it didn't work. Ben, who had been looking around casually, noticed the name, Rudolph, which had 7 letters, and remembered an old song with the same phrase. "You will be in history." He said the word, Jason tried it, and it worked. The second lock opened. They all ran out of the room, but the door automatically shut behind them. Danny was walking alone when he suddenly bumped into a wall. Unexpectedly, a vent opened, blowing out cold air. They gathered around it, and noticed all the windows were sealed, so they kept searching for clues. Zoe discovered some writing, while Mike found a dog statue. When he turned it, he discovered a fishing rod. Jason came back and found a red jacket that belonged to Amanda. Then everyone took turns wearing it. By coincidence, Ben fell into a hunting pit, while Mike later showed up with hunting tools. Zoe found a compass in the jacket pocket, then discovered a bear statue. After collecting the clues, Zoe finally found a magnet. Amanda, who couldn't stand the smell of smoke, asked Ben to move away. When Zoe came back, she had an idea to attach the magnet to the fishing rod. Soon, the group managed to fish out a block of ice with a key inside. Since the ice was very solid, they needed to melt it. Ben lit a fire, but he was in a bad mood, so they left him alone. Danny went to get something, but suddenly fell, and everyone panicked and started looking for him, but couldn't find him. Ben began to feel like they were accusing him. Some even suspected he was behind the whole game. He denied it, saying he was just a store clerk. Then Amanda explained that the scars on her body came from her time in the Iraq War. Instead of arguing, Jason focused on melting the ice, even though he was worried about the cold affecting them. They all gathered and used their body heat on the ice, and after a while, it started to melt. The others were exhausted, but Mike managed to endure the cold. Jason then started to suspect that these events were similar to a past experience he had. Eventually, Mike succeeded in getting the key, but Jason, confused and panicked, snatched it and ran off looking for the exit. When they reached the end, the door didn't open, and they realized the real exit was on the other side. They reached the third room, and suddenly a small earthquake shook the place, causing a phone to fall from above. By coincidence, Jason discovered a clue that the door didn't have a handle. Mike looked around and noticed that the number 8 billiard ball was missing. Suddenly, the phone rang, and Ben managed to save Mike. When they realized the floor was collapsing, they all stood on the edges. Amanda quickly climbed up and found a small safe. Mike suggested trying the combination 1 to 3. Zoe spotted a large puzzle and tried to solve it with Mike's help. Meanwhile, Jason, who was wandering around, almost fell. After a while, Zoe figured out a code, 9-8-1-0, but it turned out to be wrong. To reduce the weight, Zoe tried to move, but she fell and lost consciousness. When she woke up, she immediately suggested reversing the numbers to 0-1-8-9, and this time, it worked. But suddenly, the phone rang again, and Jason almost fell once more. Amanda tried to climb up, but after the ball dropped, she had no choice but to jump. Just before she fell, she threw the ball, while Jason left them and they moved into the fourth room. Jason asked Zoe for help, but she was upset. Suddenly, the lights came on, and the room looked like a personal space for each of them. In every section, there were documents about each participant, and they discovered that all of them had survived unusual accidents before, and were the only survivors. Amanda had survived an explosion in Iraq, Zoe survived a plane crash, Jason had been stranded at sea, Ben got into a car accident while drunk and singing, and Mike had been trapped under the rubble of a collapsed room. Jason explained that his ship had capsized during a storm, and his friend suffered from severe hypothermia, then became aggressive and attacked him before walking off alone. Jason couldn't believe how the creators of the game knew their traumatic pasts. While Zoe was reviewing Danny's file, she realized he had been poisoned by carbon monoxide. It was then revealed that Dr. Renyu, the creator of the game, wanted to test their luck as survivors once again and determine who among them was the luckiest. They were all being forced to face situations similar to the life-threatening events they had survived before. Suddenly, a TV turned on and a countdown began. After a short discussion, Zoe realized they had been under surveillance the entire time. While the others were busy searching for clues, Zoe focused on destroying the cameras to gain an advantage. Using an idea inspired by Ben's late cousin, who understood sign language, they managed to piece together a clue pointing to an EKG machine. Jason then found a carbon monoxide tank and brought an EKG device, testing it on Ben, but his heartbeat was too weak. They tried it on Mike, and his heartbeat was weak as well. Jason wanted to use a defibrillator, but Mike refused at first. After some convincing, he agreed, and he died instantly. While watching the TV, Jason realized the device was identifying the weakest heartbeat. Suddenly, carbon monoxide gas was released, but there was still a chance to survive. Jason moved forward, with Ben following him, leaving Zoe behind as she kept trying to destroy the cameras, but she failed. It came down to Ben and Jason in the fourth room after the others were gone. Jason showed no sympathy, while Ben became convinced that Jason had killed his friend just to survive. The two decided to enter the fifth challenge. They managed to open the passage, but suddenly felt dizzy. The next clue was on the door, telling them to find the antidote. Ben found it first, but Jason tried to take it from him, breaking Ben's leg in the process. Still, Ben used one final move that caused Jason to hit his head and die instantly. Ben passed the fourth challenge, and we return to the opening scene where a man falls into a room. It turns out to be Ben in the final challenge. He had to solve a puzzle on the door while under intense pressure. Meanwhile, Zoe, who everyone thought was dead, suddenly appeared behind two people wearing protective suits, armed with a gun, and managed to escape. As for Ben, despite everything he went through, he crawled his way to a weapon and survived in the end. When Ben finally got out, he met Dr. Renyu. During their conversation, Zoe also managed to escape her room. The doctor revealed that last year's participants had been top college students. Ben called him insane and sick. Then they offered him a cigarette, but suddenly the doctor tried to kill Ben. The system changed unexpectedly, forcing the man to face Zoe. Thankfully, Zoe managed to save Ben. She was about to lose, but Ben saved her, and in the end, he killed the man. They both escaped from the Minus building. Ben went to the hospital for treatment, and the police took Zoe back to the Minus building, but the first room looked like random chaos, making the police doubt their story. The movie then jumps 6 months ahead. Zoe reunites with Ben, who is no longer inexperienced. She talks about what happened to their friends. Mike died of a heart attack in the bathroom, Jason died in a motorcycle accident, Danny drowned in a lake, and Amanda fell off a cliff. They begin to question who is really behind the game. Then Zoe discovers that the Minus logo is actually coordinates pointing to an industrial building in Manhattan, and they plan to fly there in 2 weeks. The scene shifts to a plane going down, where a flight attendant finds a clue and tries to solve the next puzzle, but in the end, it's revealed that everything was staged. The mystery returns once again, and no one knows who's really running the game. And that's where the movie ends. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe and support me so I can make even better content. See you later, guys.